is it time to consider a plan B? And so plan B is really some change in your job search process. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be small or medium as well, but something that you're doing. And so we're going to get right into that right now. We're going to skip my introduction slide. So what are some of the things to think about? Well, there are disruptive influences in the marketplace. There are lots of disruptive influences. You've probably heard other people talk about these as well. And so in some cases, the economy can be a disruptive influence in the job market. If the economy is good, hiring goes in a certain direction. When the economy flattens out or turns down, maybe there are layoffs or less jobs, or companies are not hiring as frequently. And so the economy always improves and then also goes down. It's a bit of a cycle, but just realize that the economy, the state of the economy, can be a disruptive influence through for your job search. Also, industry regulations change all the time. Sometimes they're added, sometimes they're removed, sometimes they're updated. And industry regulations do change the way we work. When regulations become more stringent, there are guidelines that we have to be aware of and follow. Sometimes it could also affect delivery time because we do have to follow some of the requirements of the regulations. And then sometimes regulations are removed, and then that affects it well, positively or negatively, but often it makes it a little bit easier sometimes. Just because regulations are there, they're not bad things, they're important, but just realize, typically with administrations, government administrations, sometimes regulations change and we should just be aware of what they are. Technology, this is probably the disruptor that we see the most or kind of feel the most. Anything related to technology. Maybe there are new programs to use. You are very efficient in doing your job and you use one of those older programs. So think about it. I know when I was earlier in my career, I was really good with Lotus 123. I actually knew how to write programs, not in 123, that can then send data directly to the Lotus 123 file formatted database. I got really proficient at it. That proficiency is not really very helpful right now because Lotus 123 just isn't a very popular platform. Actually, I haven't seen it used at all lately. There are probably some legacy implementations, but just not there. It could be that you've been working with a certain program for a while, but most of the competitors of your company that you were last at went on to newer versions of it or different types of programs altogether. If you're technology people, you may see that tech jobs within any company are shrinking. And the reason why is basically cloud technology. The centralization of any kind of technology is now causing I'm sorry, I was just addressing, my phone was ringing, I'm not sure who that was, excuse me. So delivery of technology has changed the way companies are hiring. Because of cloud services, where computer technology is more centralized, there's less of a need to have as much in-house staff, and so they're doing more staff centralized, and maybe they're switching to a consulting model for project-oriented work. Artificial intelligence, letting some of the computers do more of the work that was done previously. So that becomes another technology disruptor. And hiring practices have changed. It used to be we would call the recruiter, maybe we even had our 1 or 2 recruiter friends, and they worked very hard for us. But we have seen hiring practices have changed too. There's a lot more reliance on applicant tracking systems and other means of getting technology a bit less personal. And so that has changed, and we need to know how to respond and react to that as well. So we always need to be aware of anything that's a disruptive influence in the marketplace. So when we think of a plan B, what really is it? Plan B, it's an alternate strategy. Again, it could be small, medium, or large, but it is an alternate strategy. Maybe it's just changing your perspective, trying to take a step back and being as objective as possible in what's going on in the marketplace or any of the other things that are affecting your job search. You may have to begin to modify some of your goals. Your goals need to be more realistic according to the way the true state of the market is right now. You might have to start changing assumptions. You may remember being at job searching or in the hiring phase years ago, and it's changed a little bit. You assumed you could do things the same way. Maybe you can't. So start and proceed with a different set of assumptions. Or you could be doing something completely different altogether. And that's, of course, a more robust and bigger type of plan B, but completely shifting. So plan Bs are small, medium, and large. It doesn't have to be all massive. For most of us, it probably won't, but for a few of us, it will. But there could be little tweaks, and we'll go through some of that in the next couple of minutes. Why might you want to consider a plan B? Well, if you're not finding any good positions, if you're in your job search, the way that you've been doing this for a while, and you're just not seeing positions that meet your qualifications, it may be time to do something a little bit different, and that could be your plan B. Recruiters aren't calling you. You see there are a couple positions that you would like to apply to. Maybe you're even reaching out to recruiters, but they're just not calling you or calling you back. So there's something about the way your job search, something in your process of job search that's just not working well enough to pique a recruiter's interest. You're not getting any interviews. So maybe you are reaching the recruiter, or you are reaching internal recruiters or HR people and talking to them, but they're not looking to interview you. So there's something about the way you're doing your job search right now that's not yielding an interview. It may be time for you to do something a little bit different. You get that first interview, but you just don't move beyond it. There's no next step. There's something that the recruiter or the hiring manager learned from speaking with you that's just not a match for the position, and you're seeing that continuously. So you may need to, again, change something in your job search. Or maybe quite simply, you don't really like your old job. You've been doing it for a number of years. You were probably good at it because of the success you've had in your career, but you realize you just don't like it. You want to do something else. And that may be another reason to consider a plan B. And then you start feeling frustrated or disappointed or even depressed. And those are normal feelings. But if that's beginning to happen more and more often, it may be time to shake something up and consider doing something a little bit different. And it may be time for some form of a plan B. Now, there is a cost of staying the course. And that's something that George H.W. Bush used to say, stay the cost, 1,000 points of light, all that kind of stuff. Dana Carvey used to make fun of him. Maybe there's a loss of income opportunity. Well, with no work, there's no income. And so if you're going to be staying the course, going down that path, and you're not getting a lot of calls or interviews, you may have to wait a little bit longer and be able to tolerate that loss of income. Without the work, you won't have the income coming in. And then your personal time may not feel as fulfilling and robust to you. If there's less income coming in and there's not another source of income, you'll have to manage your budget and expenses a little bit more closely. So you may not be able to do things that you may otherwise, like a vacation or going out more. Of course, the pandemic is keeping us in-house a little bit more also, but it reduces the opportunities anyway. So a little bit less fulfilling personal time. And then that starts to begin to get a little loss of morale, lower motivation. You know, being in a prolonged job search, it gets old after a while. It gets sometimes a little hard to stay motivated, keep your motivation up. We're going to have someone talking about that in a couple of weeks in another presentation. So we think that's very important, finding ways to keep your morale up. But if you're starting to feel that, or if you see that you want to stay the course, just realize that this is something that you may begin to go through. And staying the course may have an impact on your family. If you have family at home, whether it's a spouse and partner or kids, you may start to feel a little down or moody. It may begin to impact them. And they may start to get a little down and moody. Maybe if you're not able to go out to a restaurant as often or go on that annual vacation, and they're going to get a little moody. And then their bad mood makes you feel a little down. And then it becomes a little bit of a cycle. Be aware, it's normal for people to feel disappointed, especially with these sort of life changes that are frustrating. It's normal to feel that way, but be aware that if the cost of staying the course, of moving slowly, people may be impacted a bit by their family, and you may impact your family as well, and be aware. And keep them in the loop to your progress. Hopefully we'll minimize that a bit. So there is our first introduction. So, Alan, if there are any questions, and I don't see Okay, there's one. So was Melanie a scam? Melanie was not a scam. I will follow up with her. This was supposed to be a program about um, how not to get scammed. Hopefully this program is not a scam.
And no other questions yet, David.
Okay, and I'm going to quickly quiet my phone because it is ringing here. There, good. And good, so if there are no other questions, and there seem not to be, and I appreciate all of your flexibility along with me of indulging me with this program, but I want to make sure that we present something for all of us this week. There we go. When the intermission is over, the curtain opens. So let's talk a little bit about how we can begin to develop that plan B. And again, it could be small, medium, or large, but let's start with a self-assessment. Has the way my job performed, has it changed? Has the way my job is being performed changed? So try and understand if that's the case. You may have done your job for many, many years, or even if you've progressed through your industry, has something in the industry changed? Make sure you try and understand that. Look at yourself, look at the industry and the job objectively to see if there was a change. Do I have the knowledge and skills to do the job right now? Do I know the tools that are being used right now? Sometimes when we're working in one company for a long time, the company, they were kind of static also. They were happy with the tools that were being used and the people that they had, and things worked out well for them. Now that you're getting back into the marketplace, you see that other companies have moved along, moved up a little bit. So do you have those skills, those tools? Do you have the knowledge for the way the job is now? So try and look at yourself objectively and look at the industry and the job objectively to figure that out. Do I know the current laws or regulations? Remember, administrations change as often as every 4 years, and so there can be at high level laws and regulations that are put in place. And separate from administrations, there are overbodies and agencies that do supervise certain industries. Make sure you know what's current. You may be shifting roles, maybe things have changed a little bit, and you just need to be aware so that you can work in those environments. Also, identify your core strengths and your transferable skills. These are often soft skills. So the tools and the skills for the job, those are hard skills. But the strengths and the soft skills, those are the ones that kind of talk about how you do your job. Those are easily transferable, even if you don't have all the hard skill knowledge. So make that list, understand just what it is that you offer, in addition to the specific tools that you know how to use. And then reach out to people that knows you well. And so these are people typically that know you professionally, not personally, because the people that know you personally, they are not good judges of your professional skills. You're perfect the way you are, no need to change. But you need to understand, are there people out there that know me well? You may want to reach out to some of these people and ask them about the state of the market, or what your skill set is, what you are as a worker. Reach out and make those lists. Try and delve in and make those lists. And then even think about, do I want to do what I used to do? And if you don't know who these people are, that's Michael Palin, who figured out, I never wanted to be a barber anyway. I want to be a lumberjack. So he was from Monty Python. So it was a lumberjack routine. And we're not singing the song today. But it may be time to do something different. It is time to do something a little bit different, and that will make you happy or make you more interested in the work. So you want to look at that as well. And if needed, take a professional assessment. There are a lot that are out there, Myers-Briggs, DISC, a bunch of them that are out there. We're not going to be reviewing assessments here. You can find some of them. There are coaches that can help you through these. So if that becomes of importance, we can help you in that direction. So look at professional assessments. After your professional assessment, embrace your reality. Realize just where you are. A lot of times when you start doing a professional assessment, or I should say, when you complete your professional assessment, you start to go into a little bit of this Kubler-Ross depression cycle, the stages of grief. And it starts with denial, it goes denial, anger, bargaining, depression. But we all get to a point of acceptance. And that's really where you want to do. You want to understand and accept where you are right now, because once you do, then you can move forward and navigate the job market with your current status. And then you get to figure out your own worth and determine what your value proposition is. You want to create a message to your next hiring manager or to the marketplace about you and what you have to offer. And it's not looking back. I've got all these years of experience and technologies that aren't useful anymore. It wants to be looking forward. Here are the skills that I have to help you be more effective in your company. So you want to be more forward looking. Sometimes you need help figuring out. You may want to hire a career coach. It may be an opportunity to hire a career coach to learn a little bit more. If you're not quite ready for a career coach, a life coach could be very helpful. A life coach doesn't so much help you with a career, but is not a therapist. So it's not going back into your whole life and life events, but really helping you focus on where you are at life right now. Or you may be able to ask others what they think you should do. Now, if you ask your family, again, you may not get the most honest, professional-oriented information, because they'll say you're perfect the way you are, or they love you, and that's all wonderful. But maybe some of those people that you thought back to a little while ago of who knows you well professionally. So ask others. And also discuss this with your family. Remember, if you're in a prolonged job search, sometimes they get a little moody too, and it's very normal and it's very natural for them to be that way. So, keep them in the loop, especially a partner or a spouse that you're living with. Kids will get a little frustrated also, but keep them in the loop. Let them know that you are indeed working very positively, and ask them for a little bit more patience. So reflect on your hard skills. Okay. These are skills that really are of technical knowledge and technical training that you have. This is the things that you've done in your professional career, the really direct experience. It could be your education related. These are the tools that you need to do your job. Those are hard skills. So if you worked in retail, maybe it's how well you know a specific point of sale system, just as an example. Maybe you've worked as an accountant and you know Excel or other accounting tools very well. Or if you studied a foreign language, you're able to speak it fluently. Talk about that as well. So these are some of your hard skills. And you have to reflect on yours. I'm just here giving you a couple of examples, but there's certainly, you have a set of hard skills unique to your profession and training. And then focus on your soft skills. Look beyond the hard skills, because some of your hard skills may be a little bit outdated. So it's hard to sell yourself into a position when you have old skills, old hard skills. So you want to look at your soft skills. Examples might be, well, teamwork. Teamwork is usually a good example of a soft skill. How you're working well with others, not just the programming and the processes and things that you put in place, but how well you work with people. Your presentation and communication skills, how you're getting your message across to people that you work with in your department and maybe other departments and customers and other people outside the organization. Time management, a very important skill. A lot of hiring managers want to make sure you can do your job and complete it on time. How you manage your time, how you manage your tasks become important as well. Data analysis. More and more companies are relying on data and what the data really means. It's not all numerical. A lot of times it's not only numerical. Lots of different types of data points that you can look at and talk about how you review data, how you read it, how you make sense of it, tell a story, and make decisions based on it. And then any professional development you've had over the years, or personal development, things you've done to improve yourself, how you've gone about doing that, maybe how you've helped others improve themselves. So these are examples of soft skills, and you're going to want to highlight some of these as well. Okay. Soft skills are your transferable skills. These are the things that are going to be easily transferred from one company to another, even if the hard skills and the specific controls and processes from companies to companies change. Your soft skills generally transfer nice and easy. Okay, so these are skills that can be transferred from one to another, one job to another. They're sometimes called portable skills just for that reason. So in case you've heard that term, maybe that's not uncommon. And will help position your future value. You're going to be using your prior experiences to help position you for your future value. Certainly when you're applying for any new job, transferable skills are very, very important. Hiring managers are always looking for the things that separate candidates by the things beyond the technical skills. Certainly, if you're trying to find a job in a different industry, when you're changing from one industry or another, you can't talk about the hard skills of one industry that may not easily transfer to the new industry, but the soft skills very easily transfer. Changing your role or position, the same thing. If you're looking to change your role or change your position within the same industry, the soft skills are going to transfer because the types of hard skills may be different in different roles. And where your hard skills have become outdated. And I know that happened to me a number of years ago when I transferred from one company to another. Well, I had to learn a lot of new hard skills, but we talked a lot about my work ethic and things like that was very attractive to that hiring manager. So when your hard skills are becoming a little outdated, that would be another reason to look at transferable skills. So there are different types of Plan B. Change something in the way you are job seeking. If you're spending most of your time online, you are actually spending your time in a very void area. And the reason why is Forbes magazine had done a study a number of years ago, I think it was 2016, where they said 70% of jobs that are open are not posted. So if you're spending your time online, you're looking at 30% of the available jobs. You're spending 100% of your time looking at a pool of 30% of the jobs. So instead, spend time contacting people. Reach out to them directly, maybe send an email, make a phone call. Do a bit more networking, join groups like this or attend groups like this. Also begin to create a targeted company list, a list of companies that have positions or can use the skills that you have. So begin to have a more focused job search. Change something in the way you job seeking. Change some of the tools that you've been using. Change up your resume, change your LinkedIn profile, be more active on different social media platforms. And I can't tell you what the best platform is. You have to decide what the best platform is for your audience, where your industry is, where your hiring managers may be. Clearly LinkedIn is one, Facebook is another. Some of the video-oriented ones like YouTube and Instagram are very terrific. You have to find the one that's right for you. So change how you're using some of the tools or change some of the tools. Consider different types of employment. A lot of us get in the mindset that because we've worked in full-time employment with benefits, that's what we have to do. After all, I need benefits. Well, when you think about it, when you're unemployed now, likelihood is, unless someone else in the household is providing the benefits, you're paying for benefits. You're paying for it out of your pocket, out of your savings. And so that's a bit of a financial disruption. Of course, when you were employed, it was a covered benefit for you, the healthcare and such. So, well, if you start changing the way you consider working, maybe if it's part-time or work as a consultant or work second shift or third shift, do something a little different. Even if you're not getting benefits as part of the job, as part of the compensation, the money that you're getting now can be used to pay for those benefits. You're not using your savings. So look at companies that offer these other types of employment models. They may be very helpful. Second and third shift, those are late afternoons or evenings. My brother-in-law was in that situation a number of years ago. He was laid off by his prior company. He was a manager, a production manager, and he found a company that actually needed a third shift production manager, and that was his way into the company. It was a little hard. He had to flip his days and his nights. When he came home, his kids were going to school. Things were completely different, but that was his way into the company, and over time that shifted, and he went back to day shift eventually. So think of different employment types. Change roles, change industries, change jobs, change job levels. Look to do something a little bit different. You don't have to do only what you used to do. It may be time to do something a little bit different. So look at it more openly, have a wider type of or number of opportunities available to you by being open to these changes. And you may also want to consider starting a business or buying a franchise if that's a little bit easier. People sometimes say, well, I don't want to spend the money to buy a franchise, but actually for some people, it can be more cost effective. Yes, there's a financial investment up front, but the company is already there. The name recognition is already there. You're not spending as much time ramping up the business, or just start a business on your own. And that's what I did. I'm an independent technology consultant. It's working right for me, and I'm very happy with it. So there may be opportunities like that. These are types of plan B. And ways you can pursue your plan B. Well, take that alternate strategy. Ask other job seekers in your industry or your role about things that are going on. Find out the true state of the industry. Seek advice from employees in your industry or your role for the same reason. These are people that are working right now, and they can tell you just what the industry is like. Also, very important, keep metrics. Figure out what's working, figure out what's not working, and focus on the things that are working. Because sometimes if you're not aware of what's not working and you just like it or comfortable with it or used to it, you may be spending a lot of your time in a low productivity opportunity. And where you need, make some changes. Change your perspective of what the marketplace is like. When you ask others what they think about you, you may have a new view of what your value proposition truly is. So ask others. It may be time to take training, take classes, webinars, join groups, things like that, because the technologies that you have that you're good at, the tools that you use may not be as current anymore. And remember, we did put that link in the chat. There's 54 different e-learning websites. That might be a place to start, do some e-learning. Volunteering, and there was a volunteer opportunity placed in chat a little earlier. Volunteering, you don't get paid right now, but you may be able to volunteer with a company or an organization, and you get to use a current skill. You get training, real life training. And also it fills a resume gap because you are working, you're not getting paid, but you're doing something. And so you get to overcome a resume gap. If you need, hire a career coach, a coach or a life coach. A coach can help you objectively give you a little bit of insight into yourself to help you understand or change your perspective. Sometimes subjectively, that's a little hard. Have your resume reviewed. Make sure that it's of the current format, the way hiring managers like to look at it. Coaches or hiring managers can help you with that as well. Change your assumptions. Investigate your job or your role inventory. See how many jobs that you are interested in are really out there. And that's something I did a number of years ago when I was deciding if I'm going to stay job hunting or start my own business. And what I found for me in technology, a lot of technology jobs were leaving companies. The reason why, they were being centralized at IT providing companies, internet companies, software companies. It used to be that companies had lots of programmers and lots of engineers, and they need less of that now because they buy a lot of software. They contract for service. So I began to understand that my job or my role inventory was dropping in the marketplace. Look to earn certifications. I don't necessarily believe you need to go back for a 4-year degree, or if you've never gotten your college degree, I don't think you have to spend 4 years, especially when you're in the middle of your productive years for working. I think certifications are wonderful. And the reason why is a lot of things change so rapidly that 4 years is too long anyway. So you may want to look at certifications that you can complete in a few weeks or a few months. Look at the opportunities outside of full-time employment. Maybe part-time employment would be helpful, or different types of employment. If you need to get a physical, get some exercise, get yourself in shape. I know I got to do that. Dye your hair, and that's what I do. I dye my hair and I go to the gym and I go swimming. So keep yourself in shape. Look a little bit younger. You don't have to do dyeing your hair. I just like to do it. But it may help you compete with people that look a little bit younger than you if you're concerned about your appearance from an age discrimination point of view. Or if it is time to do something completely different, you really want to expand your search criteria. Look for those different levels, those different positions. Maybe you can commute further away. You know, you're able to get in a car and commute further. You had family before, you couldn't have a long commute, you had to be closer to home. Now you can go a little further. Or you're willing to relocate. Some industries seem to centralize into certain regions or areas. It may be time to relocate. Figure out the things that you really like to do. Match up your current skills with the things that you really like. it may be time to change your career. So just be open to those things. So these are ways to pursue a plan B. Okay, it is our second intermission. Any questions? Was there anything, Alan?
No, you're doing such a good job. Nobody has any questions at this point.
Okay, well, hopefully there are people still on the call, maybe just you and me. I see there are over 50 people, so that's good. So yeah, so folks, remember, you could just type the word question in the chat and then ask your question. We can turn your microphone on and ask your question. Or you can actually just type your whole question in chat and Alan will read it. Make sure you preface your question with the word question. And for those of you that are just joining, again, you are just joining right now, Melanie Hazem was not able to join us, or at least not at the start of the meeting. So we shifted to our plan B, and our plan B was to have another presentation. And our presentation, coincidentally, is about plan B. Okay. So you can see intermission. Good time to get a drink as well for my bottle of water here. Always have my bottle of water ready. Later, I'll get my coffee cup. Okay, so we'll move on. So we'll talk about what are some of the next steps. So make sure you investigate the state of your industry and your role. Make sure you understand really how the industry is right now. Have there been any disruptors? Have there been any changes? And make sure that you're competing properly. Excuse me. And if needed, consider changing roles, change industries, or job level. And you know, there's no shame at all in going back a level. Maybe you were a vice president at some company and you were very successful. There's another company in the industry, a job that you're interested in. It's an assistant vice president position. Well, you know, that could be a real long-term benefit. Yes, you may take a step back in responsibility, but having a little bit less responsibility on day one may mean you can focus a lot more of your time on learning about the way this company operates, their rules, their processes, and it'll ease you better into the position. And then once you flourish, you'll be able to be promoted into the role that you really know that you can serve well in. If you need, upgrade your skills, get those certifications, volunteer to develop new skills and new connections. And I really take that to heart. When I first started my company, I was an independent IT guy that nobody really knew. And I connected with a company called Volunteer Connect. They're not quite active in the same way anymore. And they connected me with a behavioral health organization in Trenton that needed a tech person to do some investigation for them. They needed to find new software to make themselves more efficient and effective. That was right down my alley. I've always investigated software from my prior companies. So I volunteered. I didn't work full time. I probably put in about 40 or 50 hours over the course of about 6 weeks. And in the end, two things happened. They found a software product that was just right for them, and I got a referral, and I got leads and references to other not-for-profit organizations, and about a third of my business is not-for-profits, all because I volunteered one time. So consider volunteering. If you need, start your own business or consider working as a consultant independently. Update your resume and update your LinkedIn profile. Make sure it properly reflects those things that you learned about yourself in your own self-reflection. So I'll tell you my story, and you had bits and pieces of it during this presentation, but I wanted to know if my job function had changed. I was an IT manager. The last position I had, I actually managed 2 data centers in 2 offices, and I had a staff working for me. And prior to that, I managed programmers and had staff working for me. So I wanted to know, had my job function changed? And I thought, not as much. I realized managing is managing in the IT world. That hasn't changed as much. However, companies needed less IT managers. So there were less job opportunities for me. Again, it had to do with centralization of technology as a service. Has the way my job function changed? And I realized IT was becoming, information technology was becoming more of a commodity. It used to be you had programmers in a data center in every company. and each had their own office and their own staff, and that's the way it used to be. But information technology is being delivered as a commodity. And think about the way even you personally use technology. You have an internet service provider, and you probably have subscription services. Microsoft Office is not installed on your computer. Well, it's installed, but it's contracted. You pay for it annually. You don't pay for it one time. Those tools. So it's become more of a commodity. So I realized that that has changed. Did my industry or industry in general hire employees or consultants? And more, they were shifting to consultants, especially project-based. And that's just not information technology. A lot of industries and a lot of roles are becoming project-based. They keep a small in-house staff, and when they spend and invest on that project, that's when they ramp up the team, sometimes with employees, but a lot of times with consultants. And when the project ends 3, 6, 12 months later, they release the consulting team and the project is completed. And I realized information technology, that was very prevalent. Did I have the knowledge and skills to really do the job and compete, especially looking at a new company? And I realized, because of where I came from, I didn't have a lot of cloud computing skills and cloud computing delivery from the software development sector. And so companies were asking for that, and I couldn't talk to that. I couldn't say, yes, I had a lot of that. I had very limited. My old company wasn't moving at the same pace as the industry. But did I still like being an IT manager? And I do, and I did at the time, and I still do. So what did I do? I started my own consulting business. It's called Princeton Technology Advisors. And so that's what I do now to keep myself busy, except of course on Friday mornings. Everybody's story is going to be a little different, but I just wanted to put in perspective, this was how I found my plan B. My plan B is not right for everybody, but it might be similar to some people. So what can be your plan B? Change something in the way you're job searching. Do look to spend less time online and do more networking, get to meet more people. Now I realize certainly with the pandemic, it's really hard to meet people in person. So of course, one thing we like to do here is we did start this meeting early, about 15 minutes early, and we were having a nice conversation. When we end this presentation in just a few minutes, we'll keep the session open again and have open networking. Not much different than if you were visiting with us in person at the Princeton Public Library. You're hanging around the room at the end of the program, chatting with people. So we're doing it virtually as best as we can. Other groups do that as well. Breakfast Club of New Jersey does that. I know because I'm involved with them. Career Support Group in Hamilton does that as well. Visit more professional associations. Get on meetup.com. If you have not yet joined meetup.com, please do. If you're not familiar with it, I will let you know. Meetup.com, first of all, is not the world's largest dating website. That is not what meetup.com is. It's really an online service of groups. And the groups tend to be mostly in person, although not lately. And Meetup is the connector. It's the way to find groups. For you to join Meetup, as long as you're not creating a group, because if you're going to join a group, it's fine. It's completely free. Members who join groups, it's always completely free. Build a simple profile with some professional keywords. Meetup helps you with that. And then Meetup runs night and day looking for groups that match your profile. And it may tell you there's a project manager group in Bridgewater. Sign up, don't sign up. You decide if it's right or not for you, and start attending. I found a lot of contacts through meetups. Look for a similar role in different industries. As we mentioned before, it may be time to shift industries because what you did is very valuable. A lot of skills, a lot of roles are transferable. Consider different geographic locations. If you are not necessarily bound by the neighborhood that you live in, you may be able to relocate. Not everybody can, some people can. And if you're in that group, consider that. Consider the different types of employment. It may be time to be a consultant or work on a part-time or temporary basis. Find projects that are transitioning out of the old technology they just fired you from. So find projects that help companies transition from the old way of doing things to the new way. One of my first contracting projects was actually very much that. A company was looking to, they had an accounting system, they were downsizing staff, And then what happened was they got rid of too many staff, and now they didn't have enough people to know how to administer the accounting system. I knew how to administer the accounting system from my prior employer. So they contracted me to be an administrator for them on a very short assignment until they transitioned to the new software. That does two things. One is you get paid. You're doing something. You're getting paid as on a contract. The other is you may have an opportunity to learn the new way of doing things, the new software. And now all of a sudden you are getting trained by the company that hired you to work on this old technology because you had the transition from old to new. You're automatically updating your skill set. So consider that. Consider starting your own business. Not right for everybody. It could be right for some people, whether it's a robust storefront or like me, an independent consultant or somewhere in between. But be patient. This does take a little while, but these all have good potential. And changing your plan B, pursuing your plan B is mostly going to be quicker, take less time than just not changing at all. So as we sum up, consider that you may need to make a change in your job search process. Understand the effect of staying the course if that is indeed the path you are choosing for yourself. I'm not encouraging you to stay the course, but if you can tolerate it and you believe there's some potential there, I guess it's okay. Just understand that there is an effect of staying the course. Do perform a good self-assessment. Make sure you understand yourself, your value in the marketplace as objectively as possible. And if needed, to start your plan B, ask key questions about the job search process. These are things that are part of your self-assessment. Find realistic answers from yourself, your own reflection, your own research, or from others that you can ask. Your answers will guide you in the path you should take. Your change likely doesn't need to be drastic. Your plan B doesn't need to be drastic, but you'll get some answers that'll help you understand just what it is you may need to make a change to in your job search. And then you can get back into your job search with a renewed vigor because now you know you're able to compete more effectively in the marketplace. So that is where we are. That is our program. So thank you very much. Here's the contact information for PSG of Mercer County. I'm sure you know it, but I just put it up there just in case. I will take questions in just a moment. Now we are recording this, so I am later today going to put this presentation and slide deck and the video in our website. So do look at psgofmercercounty.org, and the upper right side of the screen is going to be a link called meeting presentation documents, and all the information available for this presentation will be right there. Okay, so so any questions right now? I think there were one or two.
David, just a comment about the business of consulting. There is a lot of it out there. And oh, by the way, at least some of it does lead to permanent employment, both with the firm that you're working in and or consulting firms themselves. I hope you're all considering it because particularly in IT, but it's not only in IT, there's just a lot of gig work out there.
You know, John, you're spot on, and I do a presentation called How to Work as a Consultant in the Gig Economy. I do know it's coming up, I just don't remember when. And so, but that's very much the case. Gig work, companies more and more are transitioning to gig assignments. They don't need to keep staff on full-time for projects that are not full-time or not long-term, and so that's what they look to do. So be very open to working in the gig economy. The other thing is consulting, especially in your field, does help mitigate age discrimination. A lot of times companies, unfortunately, don't hire older workers. There's biases that are out there, and most of it is false. One of the biases that are out there that's actually true is older workers can be more expensive to the bottom line, not just from a salary, because that's not always the case, but the cost of benefits. As companies on an annual or 2-year basis look to update their healthcare and life insurance and other age-related benefits, those prices go up when the average age of the employee in the company goes up. So a lot of times, one of the ways companies keep benefit expenses down, well, they ask the employees to pay more copays, or they bring the average age of the employee pool down. Consultants don't impact that. You're not part of their balance sheet or the employment pool. So they now get your years of experience, your calm under pressure, you've seen it all before that young people may not have. They get all that experience without worrying about if it affects other costs to them as well. So be open to that. So yeah, good point, John.
There's another couple of things as you're speaking, Dave. I'm thinking, remember, there's this business of us. What does this company look like to us? Now, you can go through a whole interview process and you get something, okay? There's nothing like being in there, even virtually, 7 by whatever, to see what are they really like, okay? And that may not be the same as what they'd like you to think they're like. One based on interviews, or two based on, the corporate culture on their website.
It's always the case. We think about, is the company, am I a fit for the company? And that's the way we think, because that's the way they're going to hire us. But there is the flip side, is the company a fit for me? And so one thing with consulting is it's kind of a try before you buy. Also, you may say, I don't want to be a consultant, but I do want to be a consultant if it's an opportunity to be hired, contract to hire. A lot of people are more open to that. A lot of times, contract to hire isn't figured out until the contractor starts working. And I know in the early 2000s, I had a project going on. I brought in 3 consultants. It was about a year. It was a 13-month project. When it was over, I hired one of the people. And that was in the early 2000s. And I left the company in 2012, and he was there a few years after me. He just did very well there. So it wasn't a plan. We weren't looking to hire somebody, but once we had this good worker, we knew we would get value out of working with him. So yeah, keep open to consulting. Even if the contract to hire is not said up front, it may turn into one of those as well. I see Kathy has a question. Kathy is curious, how long was I searching before I shifted to a plan B? How long did it take me to decide on a plan B? So I was unemployed twice in a fairly short period of time. I first lost my job in early 2012. I was out for 10 months. And I would say most of that time, I was not in any kind of plan B. I was kind of a little bit lost. I was finding organizations and groups like this. It took me a while. So probably 6-7 months, I was getting very few interviews, and I just assumed I was a good worker and I would be hired, and that wasn't happening. But I did have a friend of mine. I did not hire a coach. I did have a friend of mine look at my resume, gave me some suggestions, and I kind of had my aha moment. I got hired. Unfortunately, that position lasted only 6 months, and I found myself unemployed again. And what I started to do was help people with some tech things. A friend of mine asked, can you help me with a website? That kind of stuff. I volunteered a little bit. And I did that for a year when I decided, gee, I'm getting a lot more of these little gigs than I'm getting interviews. And so officially in 2014 is when I started my company. So after my second unemployment, it was another year before I actually formally started my company, but I was kind of in that mindset almost right away. So that was kind of my timeline and my story. Yep. So any other thoughts or questions before we wrap up?
Just on the consulting side, a couple comments. One in IT, particularly in the company I came from last, because the consultant is on another ledger. You already made the point about benefits, and there's around a 30% cost there, right, per employee. But because it's on a different ledger, it's not a way of hiding it, but a lot of times companies will move, a project over to a consultant phase, so to speak, so that it's not part of the IT budget, for lack of a better word, in that column. So that's often a method of getting the job done without having people full time.
I was to say, it certainly can be the case that the company has a hiring freeze, but has budgeted for the project.
Yeah.
So, they're going to go down the path of bringing on temporary staff or consultants. Yeah.
Well, and it may be a skill set that's short term needed. In other words, just to develop, whatever you're creating, they may not need to have, a long term skill in that. The other comment I had was more from the consulting side as a consultant, that I always felt like a trusted advisor to the company. Sometimes you don't get that benefit when you're internal. And to your point, you actually leave. So if you're not 100% pleased, or even if you're pleased but need a break, you do get to leave the project, where you don't get to do that if you're internal.
Yeah, or you certainly feel like you're more tied to the company if you're internal. And you certainly, New Jersey, and I think Pennsylvania, most states are called at-will states. You can leave anytime you want with a 2-week notice. So you can leave, but you certainly feel more tied to an employed job than you do as a consulting position. Sometimes you're brought in as a consultant because of your expertise, because of the skill that you have that the internal team doesn't have just now. And so the company needs time to ramp up, but they also need the skill right now when you're brought in. Yep. A lot of benefits to it. And I think all of us should be open-minded to the consulting opportunities that are out there. Well, if there are no other questions, I guess what we'll do is we will wrap up